The Wizarding World is full of heroes and villains. When you read the books or watch the films, you will meet characters pure of heart, those that are downright evil, and those who float in between. But who should you root for? What does it mean to be a hero anyway? And what's the story behind our titular hero, Harry? Here's our guide on those characters who try to make the choice between what is right and what is easy.
She's only interested in you because she thinks you're the chosen one.
But I am the chosen one.
Born 31st of July 1980 in Godric's Hollow, Great Britain, Harry Potter was the only child of Lily and James Potter.
You have my mother's eyes.
When Harry was just a baby, the Wizarding World was terrorised by Lord Voldemort, the darkest wizard of his time. In the Harry Potter books, we're told of a cruel wizarding war that ripped through the community, led by Lord Voldemort and his followers, known as Death Eaters. In the end, it would be the innocent baby, Harry Potter, who would stop the war after Lord Voldemort targeted his family. Although he succeeded in killing Lily and James, his curse rebounded off Harry, leaving Voldemort destroyed for the time being, and Harry with a lightning bolt scar on his forehead.
That's why you're famous. That's why everybody knows your name. You're the boy who lived.
Harry was placed under the care of Lily's Muggle sister, Petunia Dursley, and her husband Vernon. Harry was practically invisible in their household, always treated inferior to his cousin Dudley.
I've watched them all day. They're the worst sort of muggles imaginable.
The Dursleys were certainly no heroes, and hated the idea of magic. In fact, the first Harry Potter book tells us that they were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. This did not bode well for Harry.
There's no such thing as magic.
Yes, due to Harry's magical parentage, the Dursleys weren't too keen on their nephew. Harry was forced to live under the stairs, wear hand-me-down clothes, and was treated terribly. In fact, the Dursleys neglected to mention to Harry that he was actually rather special.
Why don't you just cook the breakfast and try not to burn anything?
Yes, Aunt Petunia.
Thankfully, Harry's fortunes were about to change, and his heroic path to the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was about to be set.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
In rejoining the Wizarding World, Harry would meet new friends and wise professors who would help him along every step of his journey.
We've got one thing that Voldemort doesn't have. Something worth fighting for.
Speaking of which, let's learn more about Harry's best friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. Ron is brave and headstrong, with some rather impressive eating habits. His upbringing couldn't have been more different to Harry's. With 7 kids, the Weasley household was full of love and mischief. They also had to contend with a groaning ghoul in the attic and gnomes in the garden. The Weasley matriarch, Molly Weasley, welcomed Harry into her family with open arms, not to mention gifting him his own Christmas jumper.
I've got presents. Yeah.
As for Ron, not to mention his siblings, this hero faced many fears in his time at Hogwarts, even coming up against his biggest phobia, some supersized spiders. Remember, not all heroes have to look brave all the time.
Wait, spiders? Why couldn't it follow the butterflies?
Despite his fears, Ron could always be trusted to be there for Harry when he needed him, even if that meant risking his own life. But this headstrong duo needed someone with a little more logic. Who could be better than the brightest witch of her age? Hermione Granger met no match for her brains at Hogwarts.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Just like Harry, Hermione grew up not realizing the Wizarding World was waiting for her. Up until she got her Hogwarts letter, Hermione lived a standard Muggle life with her dentist parents.
They attend to people's teeth.
And is that considered a dangerous profession?
That didn't stop this fearless bookworm from being a top student and playing a crucial part in the fight against Voldemort. And with Hermione's fierce intelligence, she taught us that heroism doesn't always have to come from a sword or a battle, but sometimes using your head.
We couldn't have done it without you.
Thanks.
Her drive to stand up for what she believed in and to help those less fortunate made her a hero worthy of joining Harry and Ron, making quite the golden trio. But let's be honest, they had lots of help along the way. The wisest of them all being, of course, beloved headmaster, Professor Albus Dumbledore. Don't let his eccentric style fool you. Dumbledore was known to be the only person Voldemort was ever truly afraid of. Dumbledore was also quite famous. He was a transfiguration professor, and later the headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. He also served as Supreme Mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards and a Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot.
Oh, you can't expect him to run around all day.
Whether he was sharing his wisdom or stealing Harry's sweets, Dumbledore was always one step ahead of the game. There's definitely more to Dumbledore than his fascinating catchphrases, love of sherbet lemons, and enjoyment of knitting patterns, but that's to be expected from one of the most talented and brilliant wizards in the wizarding world. Moving on to the deputy headmistress, Professor McGonagall. She prided herself on discipline, in contrast to Dumbledore's quirkier ways. Although strict, McGonagall could actually be quite a sentimental witch who was constantly looking out for her students, especially Gryffindors. She was the head of the house. Being a Gryffindor was no free pass. Professor McGonagall was absolutely willing to discipline her own students, who quite often stepped outside of the rules.
Therefore, as punishment for your actions, 50 points will be taken.
50!
Just like Hermione, McGonagall had been top of her class during her time at Hogwarts. She was even on the Quidditch team.
That was bloody brilliant.
Oh, thank you for that assessment, Mr. Weasley.
McGonagall may have seemed strict, but she was nothing compared to the potions professor, Severus Snape. Here's a tip. If you're ever scared of this surly professor, just imagine him in your grandmother's clothes. It's a long story. While Professor Snape made life difficult for certain students of Hogwarts, there was one half-giant who made the school feel like a safe place for our golden trio. Rubius Hagrid's fascination with scary magical creatures might seem like an odd trait for a hero, but this was one big man with a bigger heart. As groundskeeper at Hogwarts and keeper of the keys, Hagrid's job was to keep the school in good shape. Rubius Hagrid was incredibly loyal, and the only one Dumbledore trusted to introduce Harry to the wizarding world. Although he does let secrets slip from time to time.
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
Harry might have been the boy who lived, but he didn't become a hero alone. At Hogwarts, he found a family that would stick with him through all the trials he had yet to face.
You have friends here. You're not alone.
For more deep dives into the wizarding world, stick around for more Discover Harry Potter.